Okay, so I just got this idea, which is to talk about how not to break someone's heart. How do you not break someone's heart? So I was just listening to Don't Go Breaking My Heart by Elton John. I don't know if that's what it was called, but you know what song if you know. And I was just thinking, like, you know, here's the song, they're playful, I like that, but they're talking about, like, don't break my heart, and then kind of the lyrics start to, like, I won't go breaking your heart. Like, it's a conversation, right, between two people. We're kind of secretly in love and nobody knows, and they're just kind of playing with each other a little bit. So I was just thinking, like, well, it's so understandable that someone is, like, not wanting their heart broken, right? Like, we go into these relationships or even just any experience, and we have, like, this trepidation because we don't want to invest too much, we don't want to get our hopes up, we don't want to get our hearts broken. If we do invest, if we do really, like, feel drawn to or a longing for or want for someone, then that puts us in a vulnerable position if they don't feel the same way. And so I think because I'm exploring these, you know, relating dynamics between people, I just felt like, oh, this is one to address, because there are certain premises that we can operate with that will assure that we're not breaking someone's heart and that we're not getting our own hearts broken. I mean, I'm not saying that we can, like, avoid all the pain of loss, right? Because there is a pain of loss, and as we all know, like, it's a natural part of life. And for some of us, you know, we haven't, like, mastered the process of going through grief, whereas others can process it very easily. But different things can happen too if we get stuck in that process, where our hearts get closed, or we get really depressed, or so on and so forth. So even though we can't fully avoid the pain of parting ways, I feel like I've had to do this so much in my life now, and I have done this so much in my life now, right? Like, I've walked away from a lot of people in my life. And I giggle a little, but I know that, like, it may have caused pain. It certainly caused pain for me. It may have caused pain for some people, but for me, I know it caused me pain. Like, you know, when I was walking away, I wasn't, like, doing it with hate. Oftentimes it was with sorrow in my heart that this was a loss that I had to endure, and that even though it hurt, I still knew it was the right thing to do. I still knew it was in the highest good of all, and so it had to be done, right? And then, of course, there's the loss that we often have to go through when we lose a loved one to death. So these grieving processes are quite similar, you know. And I know that there have been steps identified for the grieving process. I think it's 5 or 7 steps of grief. So we can maybe look at those, but I feel like I think one of the things that's been happening in society is that perhaps the younger generation has adapted, knowing that they don't want their hearts broken either. A lot of them have been going into the dating scene with closed hearts, right? And perhaps that is what explains how this hookup culture, you know, developed. It's closed hearts that participate in a hookup culture. It's like, I am going to engage with you in the most intimate process that a human being can go through, but I'm not going to I'm never going to see you again. Like it's strange to me, you know, that we would adapt in a way that we would, like, open our bodies, But it's not strange if you look at it in terms of like one of those lower density energies that we can get stuck in is lust. So it's like if we favor lust and lustful experiences and maybe throw some greed in there and, you know, some pride, these are the things that make up the ingredients that would produce experiences like hookups, like, you know, just one, they used to be called one night stands, I guess. And so then we go and we offer up the most intimate parts of ourselves and our body to strangers, essentially, and then just walk away without any investment, and that is like okay with us. You know, energetically we do get coiled up and entwined and tangled with those we share our bodies with. You know, you do have to consciously make an effort to disconnect. And so if you don't have a practice of doing that, yikes, like you're probably carrying a lot of strings that you might not even know about, and they could be weighing you down. And if you cut the cords of those strings of all the past lovers that you've had and return their energy back to them and take yours back into you, you'll probably immediately feel relieved. You know, you might even just feel lighter. Hey there. So, I believe I would have just popped in a clip and started with me talking in the car. Now I'm home. It's later. I wasn't going to record this, but as soon as I sat down, I got this like overwhelming urge to do it now. And then as I came in here to like do it, I dumped over all my cards. See, they're all, it's my glasses mixed in there. So I figured I'll sort my cards as we continue this discussion. Okay, so made some notes. As you can see, I'm in a different location. I have cleaned out my spare room. And let's just do a little side note. I know this is kind of like taking a break in the middle of the discussion because you just went from that clip to this, and the clip got cut off with me speaking because my phone ran out of room. But I did not chop my hair off. It's in a ponytail. That's one thing. When I cleared out this room, like I may have mentioned in one of my other videos that I have this two spare rooms that I just use for storage. So the rooms were very stagnant. And I just kind of started getting this message like, look, we've been really, really patient with you decluttering, which, you know, I've been working on decluttering, but finding it really difficult because I just don't want to get rid of my stuff. I like my stuff, okay? Like, I have the stuff because I like it. That's why I have it. I don't know if is that thing crooked? Probably. All right, so there's some more work to do in here. But anyways, I finally cleared out this room, reorganized, you know, the stuff, just consolidated stuff and put it in my mudroom on some shelving units that I had bought a while back. So I had everything I needed to do the thing. It's just like I hadn't done it. And I'm so glad I did it because just like the feng shui in my house now just changed. Like, you know, I'm sensitive to energy, so I never noticed it because it was just always like that. But like that stagnancy in my home was really affecting me. So clearing the space has just like made the energy move different, right? And now I'm heating this room. I wasn't heating this room before. And I don't know, I was just like, wow, that's such a difference that now I'm motivated to do the other room too. So I will be working on that. But for now, I decided to do my recordings in here and change up the background a little. So these are some of the boxes from some of my Oracle card decks. And don't pay attention to that. My coat's hanging here, a bag of something I just bought for my son. I have to hang it with my coat so I don't forget it. And yeah. Okay. So let's get back to the topic. If I remember correctly, I was blabbing on about the hookup culture and how it might be a good idea to clear your energy of any past lovers, even if you didn't participate in hookup culture. You may notice a difference. Just like I talked about, like clearing the energy in my home, I could feel the difference. The flow of energy throughout my home changed just on the basis of that. So it's the same in our bodies, right? So cutting cords, you can look it up if you're not familiar with the thing, but or you can follow your own intuition. But basically what I do is I cut the cords, and then I gently pull the cord out from the root on the other person and give it to God. And then I pull out from the root and give it to God from myself. And then I know that I've cut my cords, right? Now that's because I do it on a regular basis. I think the first time I went into more detail, like sometimes I'll like fill up the energy of where the roots were with some rainbow love energy, in both parties. Or I'll just ask God to. And yeah, what I do after I cut cords, there are a couple people in my life that I cut cords with on an almost daily basis. Just because it just, sometimes you get attachments, and I'm not because I have sex with them, but just because they're people that that are kind of in my head a little bit. There's someone that I have this just a lot of thoughts of that person, so I end up cutting cords at the end of the day, or several times a day. But in general, what I also do at the same time is I fill up my body with love and light, pure source energy. I connect myself to the earth, to Mother Earth. I ground myself in with roots down to the center of the earth. And then I expand my energy past the constraints of space and time. And then I put out a boundary, but it's more like a circle of mirrors. I surround myself with a circle of mirrors, and then I paint rainbow love on the front of the mirrors, so that the reflection that people get of themselves off me, it's always a reflection of them, and it's one of love. It's one of kindness. Or if they're in the root chakras or any of those other things, they can get that reflection too. But rainbow is just like the highest vibration, so that's why I use rainbow. And then I pull back all my energy and into my body, and I apply, and like I sit back in confidence. And this is the ritual that I've made for myself on a daily basis. And when I do that, it just feels good. I'm like, yeah, I'm whole, I'm good, I can handle my stuff. So let's go to my notes. Because I was driving when I was talking, but then there was a few times where I was like sitting in my car. I went to see my son. He lives about an hour away. Always great to see him. And he ran into a store, and I sat in the car. Actually, it was weird because we went in the store together. We were there for a while. We checked out, and then he said he had to go back in the store. So we went in back without me, and he got a bunch of groceries. It was at Walmart, so they have a grocery section, but we weren't in the grocery section at first. So I don't know about why that happened that way, but I took the time to make some notes, video notes. Okay. Oh, yes. Okay. So, when we're talking about how can we assure that we're not getting into a situation where our heart will be broken, or that will break someone else's heart. Okay. First of all, let's define what is heartbreak. Because like I could be talking about, this process, and in your mind it just means, heartbreak is just any hurt that you have. It's like, well, that's not what I consider heartbreak is. Heartbreak is like when you literally feel broken. I've felt this way, but I think you can only really get heartbroken when you're codependent, because it's like when you have this break with somebody that you're codependent with, so you're kind of enmeshed, it feels like you're losing a part of yourself because you've made them a part of yourself. Oops. So if we look at it that way, in terms of that, like basically all we're going to be doing is making sure that we're sovereign within the context of a relationship and having any experience with another being. So, but let's talk about it some more, okay? What came to mind when I first started taking notes was like, when we talk about karma, there's this awesome astrologer who specializes in heliocentric astrology. Heliocentric astrology is the astrology where you're looking at things from the perspective of the sun. When we look at our charts, normally, any like typical astrology that we're doing, we're looking at ourselves as the center and like where the sun was, where all the planets and asteroids were in with respect to us. But his chart is showing us where we are with respect to the sun. Okay, the sun is the god, right? Like it's like, that's valuable information. So what it tells me, what the heliocentric chart tells me, is like the perspective of us outside of our Earth existence. It's like our soul. So he has fascinating stuff, and I got into it a while back. It's on my last laptop. I was thinking about how I need to re-download all his books because I put them on my last laptop, but I want to be able to like access them again because he has these cool categorizations of people in the charts. And that's the one thing, like, you can consult charts, you can consult charts for relationships that we get into and stuff, but like, just because there's something troubling or challenging in the chart or in the relationship itself doesn't mean that it's not like a experience that you're meant to have, that is good for your soul. Relationships is where the challenges come up. So this isn't about not being challenged and things like that. But what he talks about in terms of looking at our karmas from perspective of our soul and using the heliocentric charts, he says that one of the best things you can do about karma is to avoid getting any. He says it's a lot harder to alleviate your karma once you have it. So why not do the things that you can do to not get it? And I kind of want to take that perspective for heartbreak as well, right? It's like, get in a relationship with someone who takes responsibility for themselves, who is a sovereign being, who isn't wanting to enmesh, who is not so much unwilling to depend on each other, but it's an interdependence. It's not like the person is needy on you, right? It's like these type relationships where we have those dynamics, it's just like you're asking for a heartbreak eventually, right? Or you're definitely putting in the ingredients that lend to heartbreak in those cases. Like I say, sometimes that's the experience that your soul needs to have, right? What if your soul needs to have a heartbreak? So let's not rule it out completely, right? I've had heartbreak, and I lived to tell about it. And I'm fine. And in fact, for many years, one of the karmas that I had was that I would feel suicidal after a breakup. So it was a scary place to be. And here I am, I've survived, and I'm fine. And that is not a worry anymore, Okay. So, in the recording that I started this with, I talked about how you can put yourself in a vulnerable position when you enter into relation with somebody else, because what if they don't feel the same way? But what I failed to mention is that goes in the other way too. It's also a vulnerable position when we don't feel the same way and we don't want to break someone else's heart. Like, it's like being cautious that you don't lead somebody on, or you don't invest in a relationship where you might not feel that same way, or you don't trust yourself to consistently feel that way. So it's like, what would be so bad about having these conversations ahead of time about just being adult and just saying like, hey, I'm not really sure. Can we get to know each other? It's like Abraham Hicks says this thing, I like you pretty good. Let's see how it goes. I like you pretty good. Let's see how it goes, you know? All right, now I'm going to read from my notes a little bit and see if it spurs me into some other discussion on this. All right, so if the heartbreak wasn't prevented and we find ourselves needing to part ways, honesty and authenticity help the situation. It's like just knowing that we matter in the equation too. And who really wants to be sold short? Like, I would not want someone to stay with me because they are too afraid to hurt my feelings. I deserve more, and I deserve the truth. We do get sold on this idea of fairy tale happily ever afters. You know, I certainly was. And my heart just wanted one. I didn't want to date around. And so maybe, you know, you could hear me say that and be like, well, no wonder you don't like hookup culture. It's like, well, I don't like hookup culture because I just feel like I think it's beneath us. Like, you know, it's just in those lower realms. Like, you have to be dabbling in those lower realms. And those lower realms usually lend to suffering. And these are the people who are experiencing heartbreak, and then the hearts stay closed because no one's brave enough to open them back up and risk it again. And it's like we're getting this passed down to generation and generation, and so through generations. And so it's like, what's going to happen when we have a whole generation of people who have been raised by cold-hearted people? Oh, my goodness, my communication skills feel tired today. Anyway, what I'm saying is it snowballs, right? Like, we do affect our children when we operate in this way, and then we'll be so far removed from open hearts at some point, right? It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. We already know what it's like to be at war. You know, we're sold war every day in our lives, and it's like, this is actually what we're evolving out of. We've proven to ourselves over and over again that it's not the way. Okay. So many relationships I have been in using the old paradigm allowed for a certain level of shallowness and avoidance to keep from even letting those base things matter. The base things of authenticity and honesty. And base things of like real intimacy and connection. Right? Because like I know that because I was codependent, because of the way I used to operate, because it was taught to me, I would be drawn to men who were not emotionally available. So they had closed hearts. And they weren't dealing in the emotional realm at all. And I would just be longing for them to. So that it would feel like my energy was just begging them to like open up. And maybe I would even be like, you know, earlier on in my 20s or whatever, I'd be like, you know, well, why don't you bring me flowers? Or, you know, like setting up hoops for them to jump through. Like, well, if you do this, then I'll feel loved. If you do this, then I'll feel loved. It's like, what? That's not how love works. But because I was dealing on such a shallow level of like, oh, if it looks like this, then it's love. It's like, no, love is an experience of being. Love isn't what we do for someone else, but sometimes we are spurred to do something for someone because we love them, and that's nice. But it's like, that doesn't happen. It's not like that when somebody's telling us what to do to show them we love them. You know, it was really nice today. I was in Walmart, like I said, with my son, and we went down this one aisle. He wanted to look at airsoft guns. I was like, oh, like, where would you shoot it? And he's like, no, I'm not going to buy one. I just want to look at one because I haven't seen one in a while. He's just funny like that. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm so friggin' glad that we went over to the sporting goods section because they had kayak paddles, a clearance one that was pink and it matches my paddleboard for $25. I was like, oh my gosh. They also had a multi-tool right there in the clearance aisle. He was like, oh, I just told my friend Lynn that I would buy her a multi-tool, that I was going to get her a multi-tool. And I'm like, and here it is on clearance. I love when that happens. He's like, yeah. So it was just shown to me that like my son's heart is open. You know, he has someone that he cares about in his life. It's a friend of his. And like he thought like, oh, I'm going to do this nice thing for my friend. Because apparently he was doing something with her and he was like, you need a multi-tool. I'm going to get you a multi-tool. So, and then he happened to find it and he, you know, thought of her. It's like that. That's love. You know, it was just like from his own heart. He, you know, she didn't say, oh, if you want to show me you love me, you have to buy me stuff. No, it's not like that. That's not how it works, right? Like, it's like if I've actually laid out the hoops for you to step through to prove that you love me, like, how could that prove that you love me? All that proves is that you can follow instructions. And, you know, when we grow up in a dysfunctional manner, we can think that following instructions is love. because maybe we get love when we do. But that's not how it works, right? I think you can probably see that without me going into much detail and explaining it. I feel like I'd trip over my words doing so anyway. I'm kind of just laughing like I feel like I should start this video over or something, but I just don't feel like it, so I'm not going to. Okay. So many relationships I've been in. Okay, a certain level of shallow and avoidance to keep from even letting those base things matter. The base things like that, are we compatible? The base things like I like you and you like me. We like spending time together. We, you know, like these are important things in a relationship. And like in the past, I've literally been in relationships where it was more about us being in bondage. Like it was more about like, I need you in my life so I feel safe. It's like, you put up with a lot of bullshit if all you need them to be is safe. Trust me. I did. I put up with a lot of bullshit because I just needed to feel safe, and I got my safety from having a man in my life. It's like, that's insane. That's insane. And that was just because that's the way I was trained in the old relating paradigm. But I'm not looking to keep anyone in bondage, you know? It's like, gosh, if you don't want to be here, please go, because like, it ain't like that, you know? I don't need somebody in my life to feel safe anymore. So these are the base kind of things that we want to make sure are present when we get into a relationship to avoid heartbreak. That we know that we have our own back, that we trust ourselves to make decisions, that we can take care of ourselves, that, you know, we can do it on our own. Is this someone I am choosing today? And do I want to keep choosing this person? Yeah, like, we have a choice. And I'm not saying that, like, marriage isn't valid or commitment isn't valid. I'm not saying that. But, like, I'm just saying, like, maybe don't base it on survival. And don't base it on transactions. Actually, base it on the joy of sharing time together. Time on earth. Time that you're in a human body. That you have a limited amount of. So why would you waste it? We're in situations that you've outgrown or you're not compatible. Sometimes it takes some time to figure that out. So you just allow that for yourself, right? Do I want to keep choosing this person? Commitment is important. Like when we've made a commitment, it is important. But those commitments based on covert contracts, like when you're my husband, I expect this, this, and this. But like, we didn't talk about that. I just knew that once I got you to be my husband, or got you with that title of boyfriend, then I have you. It's like, no, that's, if anything you've committed to that was like that, it's like, okay, well, that's null and void. If it's based on transactional relating and you didn't know that, it's like, okay, null and void the contract. If you didn't know all of what you were, what was entailed, you know, if you were misled in any way, even if you misled yourself, it's okay to null and void the contract. It's smarter than to continuously act like you haven't learned the lesson and put your head in the sand, because the universe just has to get louder and louder and louder and try to tumble things down around you to get your attention on those things. So to become a person that can be in relationship without heartbreak, we must be a person who knows what we want. Yeah, we got to know what we want. So, you know, what we want is what's important to us. What we want is, yeah, stability can be important to us. Safety can be important to us. But when we have needs like that, we should be looking to fill them within ourselves before we go get into a partnership. Now, it's also, so if I'm stable and I'm safe, it makes sense that I want somebody else who's going to be stable and safe too. Because if I'm stable and then I get with somebody who's not stable, and I just mean like emotionally regulated, they know themselves to a certain degree, you know, they're not like chaotic. Like if I get with somebody who's not stable, then they're going to destabilize me if I commit to somebody who's not stable. So it makes sense to want those things, but wanting them from a place of already being them, you know? Like you're getting with your equal. When it comes to safety and stability, it's like those things are things that the other person that you're going to get with also deserve from you. So it wouldn't be fair or right to get into a relationship for those things when you don't have them, you know? Okay. What are our values? We need to know our values. That's what's important to us. So, you know, is it important to us that we get to spend quality time with our significant other, or are we okay with a long distance relationship? You know, these are the things that are like going to weigh in on who we choose. What's important to you? Like, is it important to you that you do your hobby with your significant other, or do you have a preference for doing your hobby by yourself? Right? Like these type things where you're not like going in with some sort of base survival need not met. That's a formula for codependency and unfair relating. And we know that that leads to dysfunctional relating in the family dynamics, which gets passed on to the children, which puts them in anxiety and depression. And it's just a whole snowball that we need to put an end to. And that's why we're talking about things like this, right? And our values can change, right? So maybe you like realize after a while that you do want to have your have someone to do your hobby with. So maybe you invite your significant other, or maybe you just get a friend that will do it with you if your significant other is not interested. But like we do have opportunity to update our values list in life, and it's important and right to do that. So do we want to make a lifetime contract based on a value that may change? You know, it's like, well, my significant other wants to do his hobbies separate from me, and I want to do my hobbies separate. But that could change later on. But am I willing to be in a marriage with this man based on that, even though it could change? It's like, that's pretty light one. It seems like we could find a solution to that together, right? It's like, yeah, I think it's still okay. But like, what are some of your other values, and could they change? And if they changed, can you still base your commitment? Can you still make a commitment given that? This is just basically just being responsible. This is just basically like looking at things that matter in a logical, practical manner before we get into a relationship with somebody. Are there core values that the commitment honors? Right? Like the ones that we know won't change, the values that we know won't change. We want to know that our commitments that honor those, like that we're not going to be pushed to sacrifice ourselves or compromise on something that we already knew and maybe even discussed ahead of time as something that we value. Oh, then I have a note on this topic of conscious uncoupling. Have you ever heard of it? Conscious uncoupling is developed by some psychiatrist, a doctor. She's really great. That Shafaldi? I'm not sure if that is actually who it is, but I think she even offers a free masterclass on it. I took the masterclass before. It was a while ago, so I can't really remember much details about the class. I think it was through the one that Vishan runs. Anyways, so conscious uncoupling is a process of uncoupling that takes into consideration that we are all programmed, that we have our shadows, that we have this stuff in our subconscious that we may or may not have dealt with. You know, when we look at that, and conscious uncoupling asks us to deal with that stuff within ourselves so that we're not putting it on that other person. So that when we do end up parting ways, we're not slinging all this mud or holding grudges. You know, we're just doing it in the most mature manner that we can. Like, yeah, if you have to uncouple with somebody who doesn't agree and want to uncouple, you know, yeah, they might end up sad and they might not do an unconscious uncoupling process with you. But the nice thing about conscious uncoupling is you can do it yourself. Two people don't need to do it, and you can still utilize the program and the concepts within it to part ways in a very mature way that does not cause more harm. You know, it's like, yes, there's going to be some sadness over loss, and just changes can be scary for anybody on anything in life. But the conscious uncoupling makes sure that we're taking responsibility where we need to for whatever it is. And some people that actually go through conscious uncoupling process have found that they didn't need to uncouple because the process actually had them dealing with things within themselves. And once those things were dealt with, they actually found themselves compatible again. And that's why you want to know, like sometimes relationships are doing that for you. They're just showing you your stuff and what you need to work on. So if you have committed to somebody, it's like, you know, I wouldn't take that lightly. And I would kind of look at your own stuff and see if there's something that you need to work on to make yourself more compatible. Now, if you're being abused, manipulated, lied to, cheated on, you know, that's all kind of stuff. It's like, you have to use your own discretion. But like, I don't think that these are the things that are, like, personally, I've never had a guy cheat and then like admit it and be like, oh, I'm so sorry, you know? I've never had that happen, so I don't know what that would be like. But in general, the men that I've been with that were doing those kind of things, it was just like, no, that's not somebody that I'm meant to work it out with. You know, the only thing I could possibly do would be just sacrifice myself and tolerate something that I shouldn't be tolerating. So the option is to, look at myself, take responsibility for myself, but then, that leads me out of the relationship. And that's the best outcome for all, right? Because I can't be enabling men to think that it's okay to treat women that way either. That's not appropriate either. Like, they need to lose me if they're treating me less than I deserve, or less than any human being deserves, as a matter of fact. Honesty and authenticity are high vibrations, you know? And I do demand a high vibration in that way. That's an easy way to get your vibration high and deal with me, you know? It's like like we've been talking about, having these uncomfortable conversations where we just say the thing that might be uncomfortable. Like, I'm not really sure, but like, I feel like things have changed between us. What do you think? Like, I'm feeling a little unsure if like we are compatible anymore. I think that we might have grown apart. How do you feel about this? Or, you know, or if you've already made the decision, it's like, I have something, you know, to talk to you about, and I know that it may be uncomfortable for you and you might not like hearing it, but I do think that we've grown apart, and I would like to end the relationship in the most respectful way that we can for each other. And, you know, depending on their reaction, I know this might be very hard, and can I call somebody for you, or, you know, something like that. It's like, depending on your relationship, you have to know. But I'm just trying to like throw out this example of like approaching a breakup in just a way that isn't like that typical ghost you or take space from you a little bit more each day, and like eventually just finally wait till you complain about it and fight with me about it, and then I can finally break up with you. It's like, that's not cool, you know? So where can we be an adult and take full responsibility for ourselves and how we're feeling and, you know, what we're going through? Because we matter too. Like, I would never want somebody to stay with me just because they didn't want to hurt my feelings. I've never had that problem, but I think that would be awful. I would be like, well, you know, so you don't like me and you think I'm pathetic. Like, I would want to stay with somebody who didn't really have it for me. It's like, if you are somebody that cares about not hurting somebody else's feelings, I think that's a really important, beautiful thing. But it's like, that's enough to be that and to express that. Like, you know, I really don't want to hurt you, and I'm not happy that this has to go this way, but this is the way it has to go. It's like being firm and not wishy-washy either. Like, who wants to be talked in or out of a relationship? That's just weird, right? It's like, yes, talk to get in a relationship and talk to get out of a relationship. But not like a manipulation of trying to convince somebody, and not trying to entice somebody or tantalize somebody or make them promises. Those are all weird things, right? It's like when we meet somebody, it's like, why not say like, hey, like, let's just get to know each other. And like, if you are with somebody and they seem to start wanting more from you and more commitment, hopefully they have the maturity level to say like, hey, I'm just feeling like I kind of long for a commitment with you. You know, is that something that you're open to? Or, you know, how do you feel when I say that? It's like, I kind of feel even wrong about that when I say that, right? The example that I just gave. Because you know what? I feel like it would be more authentic and more appropriate to say, I kind of feel like I want a commitment in my life. And I would like to commit to you. How do you feel about that? You know, because the relationship and love is where we go to give, not get. So it would be giving an offer of commitment, not asking for one. That would be more appropriate, right? What do you think? I think so. And so say the person said, oh, I'm not really there yet. I'm not really at that stage. And, you know, then you at least know. Then you get to make a decision about, you know, because if you're a woman and you're just been like wanting to settle down and have babies or something, it's like it's an appropriate thing to ask. It's, you know, you want to understand, like, you don't want to be with a man just hoping and praying that he feels that way too, waiting for him to possibly propose to you. Meanwhile, you're like feeling this longing and this like expecting because your, you know, biological clock is ticking. It's like, speak up so that you know, and then he can tell you. And then with that information, you can make a decision, right? Because you go back to your values. What was important to you? Is it important to you that you have a baby by age 35? And like, you're 34 now. and like you're with a guy and like you just talked about wanting to give him commitment and he says, no, I'm not there yet. Now you have a decision to make. Do you want to go out there and look to be matched up with somebody who is ready for a commitment, who wants a commitment in their life? That's one of their values, because it was one of your values, So sometimes having the discussion about our values in the beginning can actually... Oh, look, here's the card. I'm just sorting out my cards. Having that discussion about values in the beginning can actually, make sure that you're not going to be matched up with somebody who doesn't have the same values. So if your value is being committed and having a baby by 35 or something, and the guy you're having a discussion with does not have that on his list at all, that's an important thing for you to know before investing, right? Investing your heart and your time and letting your clock tick in his bed. So, yeah. So there are things we can do to let's say minimize the potential for heartbreak in a relationship for ourselves and for the other person. What are your thoughts on this topic? Do you have anything to share? Do you want to talk about some things that you do in your relationship or conversations that you've had to have and how it went and important things to consider? Feel free to comment it or get in touch if you want to talk about it. All right, those are my thoughts on that. All inspired by the Elton John song. and if you bared with me through my difficulty in expression today, thank you.